Welcome to the Pacific Championship Series Tiebreaker Edition. After 6 grueling weeks, today we're finally going to lock in our playoff bracket with a tiebreaker battle between CTBC, Flying Oysters, and coming out on the other side, Deep Cross Gaming, two of our new organizations this split. Before we go deeper into the matchup, a big thank you to our tournament organizers, Riot Games, Carry Live Co., Garena, and to our fabulous sponsors, CTBC and Caliber. Now, Frank, it's been a long time coming, but today it is finally the last day, the last cast to bring it all home. What do you see coming out of this tiebreaker between the Flying Oysters and the Deep Cross Gaming, two of our J-Team clones?
I gotta say, both of these teams kind of had very differing halves of the split, right? They started out pretty darn hot, then they hit a bit of a cold streak, or at least Flying Oysters did in the middle, and then they're still looking to heat up just a little bit. But I mean, if you watched yesterday's games, those at home, like, you'll know both of these teams kind of have a lot to answer to, because DCG had it was a much more competitive game than I think a lot of people would have expected against M9, and even CFO, they were not able to put Frank Esports away in a very convincing manner.
True, the games were a little bit muddied, but we're going to be taking a look at our playoff brackets. The winner of today will face up against MFT in M2, that slot over there, played on April 1st. And if you look at the bracket overall, today's win is absolutely massive here. Not only would you get a lower seeded opponent, you also get to dodge out on PSG on the top side of that bracket.
Yeah, I think that's the most important one. Even though J-Team are looking strong, very strong, the issue is, like, PSG is just kind of in a tier of its own, so you want to dodge that half of the bracket if possible. And I mean, the other thing is you take on BYG, and BYG aren't exactly slouches either, as they've been able to do damage against some of these top teams as well.
Yeah, even though MFT did beat Beyond Gaming 2-0, I feel like most people would still rate Beyond Gaming as the slightly more dangerous team over there. Very interesting give and take this time around, but as you mentioned, I honestly just see the biggest winner as dodging PSG. 16-2, clearly our best team across the entire regular season. And to take a general look at our bracket, this time around, starting from 2022, we do have full best of fives. No more of those COVID restrictions cutting down our games. We could have a maximum of 60 games in the postseason for your enjoyment.
That would be really, really fun. A whole lot of games, but also just a whole lot of games to be able to learn about these teams as we head into MSI, of course, for our Spring Split champion. And I'm really excited because, like, we broke it down during the regular split. The top 5 is very, very competitive, and you could see different angles for all of these teams to be successful to come out as Spring Split champs.
For sure. It might seem like PSG are leading the pack, but CTPC, the J-Team clones, and Beyond Gaming, they all have a shot at this. They are going to be running with Shun today in their bottom lane. No surprises there. This seems to be their go-to, and frankly, what passes the eye test. It does seem to be their best roster now.
Yeah, Shun just brings it feels like a little bit more of a laning edge when it comes to the early game. And if you look at this team, they still have concerns with shot calling, but the shot calling issues didn't really go away with Atlan in the roster anyways, so I think it does make a lot of sense to just have a little bit more oomph in that bottom lane during the lane phase, because this team, you know, up in the top side, they are laning monsters as well. So if you just have 3 lanes that just smash the other side, it makes for a very convincing argument to not need to do a whole lot during the early game.
On the other hand, Deep Cross Gaming, your familiar faces, Leaky, Hana, Nesty, Kriskata, and Woody. This team is known for basically running 2 supports here, with Nesty only dealing 17% of the team's damage, from the mid lane role. I feel like that's going to be a big question coming into this matchup as well, is what will Nesty play? He's been able to get away with a lot of creative stuff, but as the split has been winding down, it does seem like his creativity is facing a very difficult wall of just raw meta picks, I would call it.
Yeah, he is faltering a little bit during the lane phase, and I almost feel like he's also running out of ideas of just what to bring out in the mid lane that is actually viable. Yesterday, he did bring out the mid lane Kai'Sa, but honestly, it wasn't super convincing. And I feel like in a lot of these cases, when you are running this mid lane Kai'Sa, you could just run something like a Gorky, where at the very least, you can fight earlier on around that package timer. Yes, it doesn't always line up for the dragon, but when you look at when teams are fighting with the Kai'Sa, a lot of times it is before she does hit that 3-item power spike, and Corki spikes that too.
All right, we'll see which way they go for, but generally CTBC a lot stronger lane phases, and for DCG a lot more creative in terms of what they bring out. We're going to be taking a look at a breakdown between Shun and Chris Scotta. Great KDA for the rookie. Only played 4 games, but has been absolutely stellar. The damage numbers are there, and the laning numbers that you were mentioning, plus 1,000 at 15, seems like nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, and first, the Flying Oysters, Rest is one of those players that it doesn't seem like he really wants jungle attention, so for a time, it looked like they were a little bit lost. They were trying to force resources into Atlan, but he wouldn't always return or get the full return on an investment that you'd like. So with Shun in, it definitely seems like they are getting the maximum return.
So we head into the draft phase. CFO will have side selection this game, and they did go for the blue side. It is because of their strength of schedule, matchup system. They had wins against higher seeded opponents. Going straight into the bans, Galio, definitely the big one here. Both of these mid laners recently, that has been their most played. On the other side, DCG, very banned, no surprises, but Syndra, one of Mission's best early laning champions, taken off the board.
Yeah, the Syndra pick makes a lot of sense, and then they also toss in the Orianna. So honestly, it could just be a first pick Rise here, but no, it looks like they are hovering the Lee Sin, and that'll get locked in. So for the side of DCG, it means that they have the Rise offered up to them if they want to go for that pick. Of course, Nesty, that is probably his strongest laning into roaming champion that is offered to him, and they'll also go ahead lock in the Xayah pick. So deciding to snag away the Xayah before the CFO, of course, Shun has pretty much or almost exclusively played Xayah for this squad, and it will be the Xayah Rakan.
Very interesting here. We usually don't see Rakan as high of a priority as Xayah in this patch, but looks like DCG are trying to go for a very strong laning phase. On the other hand, CFO recently has been playing a lot of Victor coming in from Mission. They do like to play it in a 4-1 type of composition, but they are on the blue side, so I'm a little bit worried about where this is going to go. This is a very similar draft to what we saw yesterday, where they basically played the same 3 champions, plus the Grave split pushing top lane.
Yeah, and I would certainly say that Jinx is going to get locked in here. So the big question for DCG is, what do they go ahead lock in for this third pick? Do they go for something like a jungle pick here, or do they go for the counter pick mid, since they already know what the mid matchup is? Okay, a very fast Ahri lock in, and this will be, I mean, Nesty taking the Ahri pick, so certainly a lot more mechanical demands coming from this champion than what he's played up in the past, and in a very mechanical matchup, this should be very I want to say it's could be exciting to watch, but I feel like Mission is just going to kind of show what he did against Pretender yesterday, where he kind of just raffle stomped the lane.
That certainly did happen. Was not pretty to see on the other side. For DCG, they're banning away Jace and the Tom Kent. So it does feel like DCG are very much set on getting these fights in early and getting them at close range with their Rakan and Ari. On the other side for CFO, there's still a jungle and a top laner open. It feels almost fruitless banning out Leaky just because he plays so many champions, but they will still give it a try in taking away the Tryndamere plus Viego.
So now if you're looking for the side of DCG, maybe they go ahead, steal away the Graves themselves here, or they could opt for something like I would probably say jungle is the better option if they don't lock in the Graves and save counter pick at the very end, and it will be the Xin locked in for CFO. They'll look for a support, and they'll also look for that top laner. Graves, of course, mentioned before. And then when we're looking at supports, it could be something it could be something like a Renata if you really want to. Of course, we know the Jinx Renata combination, but they do lack a bit of a frontline with this Gnar locked in.
Yeah, interesting to see the Gnar being locked in here. We kind of bag about this a lot, but Hanabi seems to be the best Gnar, followed by everyone else. Blind pick Gnars generally in the PCS have not had a very good time. See what Rest can do with it. CFO pondering about what to get from Koala, just switching through their engaged support options. They will settle on the Nautilus, much more popular pick this split. And for DCG, this is the top lane. What are we going to see here? Whoa.
I don't think it will be Kale, but it could be something like a Gwen. Of course, when you have Nesty in the mid lane, you can go for a little bit more magic damage up and down the top side, since even though he plays some of these mid lane mages, sometimes the magic damage doesn't always come through. But it will be the Renekton, R5 Renekton, probably one of the most controversial lock-ins in all of drafts. But that's going to come down in this draft. So DCG clearly looking to play towards these side lanes, right? You have this Renekton, you want to try and get snowballed if possible against the Gnar, can be extremely punishing for the Gnar. And then in this bottom lane, of course, you have the Xayah advantage over the Jinx during the lane phase.
Very interesting composition coming out from DCG. I feel like CFO is a little bit easier to explain. You know, they have the late game, they have the 4-1 all set up, they have the wave clear that's so necessary for your top lane to split push. But for DCG, this comp, you gotta explain it to me, because I don't feel like this is standard fare from DCG coming up with the Renekton, which, you know, traditionally has a pretty bad win rate against the Gnar overall, and also throwing Woody on Rakan here seems to be a bit of a curveball. What are they aiming here for?
Yeah, this is clearly going to be more of a pick composition, right? Because you have the Ari and then you have the Renekton, very high amounts of single target damage and stun lock capabilities. And then with, of course, the build with the Xayah going for lethality, it's really all about these early objective fights. That second Rift Herald, the second or third Dragon. That's really what they're targeting here for DCG, because you get so much explosive potential coming in from a Renekton ult and the lethality build.
How much of a lead do you think DCG will need going into 20 minutes to call this a win?
Ooh, that's going to be tough, because they are up against a whole lot of scaling in the Victor Jinx. The range advantage is going to be problematic as well. I'm thinking something like 6 to 8k.
Oh, 6 to 8k. Okay,
Yeah.
We'll see if DCG can make that. That's not a particular easy mark to make, but I have to agree with you here. I feel like DCG, their composition, definitely has a very short expiration date. A lot of these champions don't do as well post the 30-minute mark. Koala will just get slightly punished right there. No big deal. Coming up into the map here and looking at some of these rune choices, we do have an Airy coming out from Mission, a little bit more poke harass, and also the Grasp on the Gnar coming in for the top lane.
Yeah, and We'll see how Mission does in this matchup. Of course, we saw yesterday against Pretenders Ari. He really took it to him during the early phase of the game, and it really forced the side of the Frank Esports to pull a lot of resources to try and help out Pretender. As we already see, like, he's just walking up past the wave, just putting down a ton of damage, and this is why Victor, while dropped off a little bit, still seeing a lot of dominance if it does get locked in because of that lane phase.
Yeah, just walking through the minion wave, Power Siphon gets the shield back on. There's not a lot that the Ahri can do here, and we saw this yesterday as well. Mission is just able to trade over the wave and in the wave, far superior to what Ahri can do. Though Pretender did get a number of pretty good ganks down later on, so I feel like that is something that we can watch for. In the meantime, we do have to pay attention to some of the warding positions right here. CFO early ward into the top side, so they definitely know where the Xin is at this point, and we do have Rest pulling the wave a little bit closer to the tower, or maybe Leaky shoving it, but either way, he's in a pretty safe spot.
Yeah, he is in very ideal position here, and Nesty misses the charm, which means that, yeah, he doesn't get to play this lane for a little bit longer. Gemini is making his way up towards the top side as well, so we could get a scuttle fight here, and that might be could be a way for DCG to find some value early on with this Renekton.
We'll see if the Xin Zhao heads towards the scuttle right after this red buff, but in the meantime, Nesty actually just has to do a teleport back into lane. Leaky, the great trade onto Rest, taking him down very low at this point, and it does seem like the junglers are heading towards the top side. Hana will not spot out Gemini. Doesn't know where he is, but fortunately for him, Gemini also ducks back into the jungle, so there will be no potential collapse on the side of Mission. Also, we do have a very early roam from Koala. It does look like they're very well aware of the potential for conflict going up into that top side. And now things do reset a little bit, but also take a look at the bottom lane here. We have a very quick reset from both sides, and Mission gets charmed up. Electrocute, not a whole lot of damage. It actually wins the trade even with the charm landing. But just to mention, this bot lane, we don't really see this back timing, but it does seem to favor Jinx a little bit, as there is no serrated coming in on the side of Kriskata.
Yeah, Kriskata going back, getting himself a tier, so he has that extra little bit of sustain, but for shoot, this is a really nice back timing.
Ooh, Gemini gonna come in, finds the stun. Leaky is just down. Not gonna use the flash just yet. Can't get away from the Sonic Wave. Gemini flashes the emote, thumbs down, and that's first blood.
Easy does it. For the side of CFO, they get a gank up in the top side, and I mean, it really just comes down to Leaky being a little bit shoved out there with the wave starting to come back towards him. And a really nice gank timing coming in from Gemini. Follows up with the flash, so flash for flash in that case, but Leaky losing his means it's going to be clear a return gank opportunity for Gemini up in that lane.
Yeah, and this is pretty typical of what we see of the Gnar Renekton lanes. You're pretty strong early on, you can shove the wave, but it's also pretty dangerous to over push, and in general, it's considered a bit of a favorable matchup for the side of the Gnar. So we'll see how this Renekton actually gains value in this matchup. In the meantime, taking a look at the bottom side, we do have a call start for Xun. It's been very happy here. Everfrost does go down, but it doesn't look like they want to overchase. Don't really know where the Xayah is. In the meantime, some good warding coming in through Hana. They do spot out where the Lee Sin is, and it does seem like DCG are trying to just get back and get that early serrated purchase in. That's when usually the matchup will flip, but very good work by Woody here, just stopping them from ever returning.
Yeah, now Nesty is going to be a level 6. I'm interested in seeing when he starts to try and move around the map, because that's really just a highlight of Nesty's playstyle. And Gemini is down here, so they could look for a fight.
Gemini isn't spotted. Woody just gets point blank hooked in. Ignite goes down. Sonic Wave. That's the second kill for Gemini. Beautiful 3-man route, but it's not going to matter for Cascada.
Yeah, really nice setup coming in from CFO. Of course, they knew, or they didn't know that Hana was up in the top side, but with no jungler on their half of the map, DCG get picked off, and it's really, really easy for CFO to just capitalize and turn that into a dragon. So they'll go ahead, get themselves an early dragon. That's going to be incredibly helpful because, again, if you get the first dragon, it does allow you to give up that second or third dragon here. As DCG, of course, do have a bit of a stronger mid-game composition, so it gives them that out to delay and stall for time if they need to.
Yeah, it's definitely a get-out-of-contact card whenever you need it. And I just want to harken back to our earlier discussion in this pre-game, where we did mention that, in your eyes, DCG probably needs something like a 6 to 8k lead at 20 minutes. It's still early in the game, but they're already down 1.2, and it's not looking particularly obvious where they can even find a crack in CFO's laning phase. So, what do they need to do? Because it does feel like things are slipping away.
Yeah, the issue is, like, Nesty, he's kind of just stuck in this lane so far. We need him to make his first roam, and as long as Mission doesn't get caught out, it's really, really hard for them to just force a play unless if they do expend a lot of summoners. And even if that happens, that does give CFO an opportunity to then turn and capitalize on the summoner difference and turn for an objective fight. But DCG, with their summoners all up, they will be able to look for this Rift Herald.
Leaky goes in, but doesn't find the Ruthless Predator. There, the charm does land. Burst damage goes in, but Rest gets the Mega Nard just in time for the extra HP to survive. Meanwhile, Mission is going to pop the Chaos Storm for wave clear. And it looks like a top for bot trade developing right now. Again, DCG will head top, try to cut Rest off. Well, we do have some turret plates being taken down in the bottom side on the side of Shun. Let's see if Hana will decide to go all in on this. Nope, he's going to back off just now. And great pings by DCG. They actually correctly guessed where Gemini is on the map. However, they will lose 2 turret platings for that 1 Herald top.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much Herald value right there, right? So CFO, they correctly answer, and they essentially push the mid lane wave into tower. Yes, Cascada and Woody are there to pick up that EXP, but it means that there's no one to answer that bottom wave. So Shun's able to capitalize, get that extra minions for himself, and also get himself essentially the Rift Herald turret plating. So all in all, like, you're looking at a massive minion difference so far for CFO.
Yeah, that gold lead did balloon to 1k already. And we have to remember, those 3 plates in the bottom lane, they were solo plates to Shin. That's not what you want to see as you're fighting a Jinx right here. So it could be a very early mythic item coming in for him, even with the call there. So DCG really trying to push the tempo. They land the charm, and in goes the gank. Mission, one more auto attack to knock him up. He does go down, but Gemini is there for the counter. Nearly burns Hana down, but that's 1 auto attack. He does find him with the smite. Now Nesty has to get out. Oh, actually, he can stand around and fight. Excuse me, Nesty. We do have the Super Mega Death Rocket coming in. That is a friendly fire, so will not implode onto the Lee Sin, and ends up just being a 1-for-1.
Ends up being jungler for mid lane, and you do have to favor DCG just a little bit when it comes to that one, as the gold is going to help out Ari getting back into it. And it's a nice bait coming in from Nesty. Eats up the gravity well, which baits Mission in to try and dump more damage down and get a kill. And Gemini, he is able to at least follow up, use that lane ward, and finish off that kill onto Hana. So ends up being a 1-for-1, but 3-0. Gore Drinker, Lee Sin already completed. Gemini is in a massive power position, and like, there's no one else even close to a mythic.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit out of hand, especially from Gemini's side here. He's a real tanky boy now, and I can't wait to see where he's going to be insecting next towards. Taking a look at DCG and their gold difference over time, it has just been CFO all the way. And, you know, we are closing in on the 15-minute mark. That's where we kind of had the cutoff for the early game. So far, DCG just not able to find any proactive plays. Their lanes are being pushed in. I'll be honest, I don't even think the top lane is winning, even with this 6 CS. The mid lane has been relatively safe for mission, and the bot lane Shun is just completely running away with this matchup. You also have to remember the coal is there, the plates are there. Where can DCG actually go?
Ooh, that's going to be a very tough question. Rest, he just doesn't even care about the tower. Throwing down so much damage. He's just absolutely destroying Leaky here, and they won't be able to, they won't be able to salvage that. But I mean, Hana, he throws down the Rift Herald, but it's only out of necessity, right? Because it's about the timeout. 12:40. It only lasts for 4 minutes, so it was about to expire, and okay, that would have been really bad if that Rocket somehow stole that one. But it will be Mountain Soul on the table, and I mean, that really just benefits CFO if they're able to get 1 or 2 Mountain Dragons. The extra durability just makes them so much harder to pick off against this pretty much exclusive pick comp.
Yeah, it's not a lot of huge damage. Gemini does find Ahri, forces out the Spirit Rush, and takes Nesty down to half HP. But in comes the Avenger Squad. 600 gold over to Nesty. Beautiful stuff from Woody. Just caught Gemini overcommitting to that one.
Gemini got a little bit too curious for that kill onto Nesty, and Woody Hana, they make their way over very, very quickly. It didn't seem like Gemini understood that they were coming as well, so he ends up giving over a pretty hefty shutdown, which really evens things up for this mid lane quite a bit for Nesty. Gets him a lot closer to that mythic. Of course, Victor already completing his, not going for any curveball mythics. It's just going to be Ludens to give massive amounts of burst damage, and it feels like if Nesty doesn't have anyone to help him out, Mission can just so easily 1v1 him with this Ludens completed.
For sure here, and we have talked about Ahri and her builds for a long time. She doesn't really pack that much damage coming in from her itemization and her skills, so she does need to rely on being ahead of the curve a little bit. So that 600 gold is absolutely massive. Thank you very much, Gemini, for keeping this tiebreaker a lot closer than it probably would have been. We do have DCG coming in for the next Herald, a full 5-man rotation this time, and Shun will be joining. So we do have the setup for a 5v5. CFO are going to leash the Herald just first. Let's see where DCG will try to engage, and this is not a fight that it feels like they can give up, being that they need to stay ahead.
Yes.
Do have Leaky coming in. Hana in range to contest with the smite. Herald down to 3k. Shun trying to find an angle onto this team fight. The Herald does not reset. Hana going in for the smite. He will find it, but in goes Koala with the engage. On the bottom side, we have Mission just being caught out. Drops down immediately, making this a 5v4. They do open up onto Hana, trading one back. Leaky trying to go for the backline. Doesn't find the stun. He has to walk back. Almost gets taken out. But at the end, DCG trade 1-for-1 plus the Herald.
DCG, this is kind of what we highlighted for their composition, right? They need to find either the second Herald fight or the second or third Dragon fight. They find it at the second Herald with that level 11 spike coming in from the Renekton. So much extra HP coming in from that ultimate, and they're able to get one kill along with the Rift Herald. So I mean, we'll see the replay. It really is just Mission not playing with his team, coming in on the side flank, and DCG just immediately collapse, and there's really nothing to help Mission out in that situation. Like, you can see he's just so split off from the rest of the squad. He walks in, such an easy charm. Yep. And from there, like, they just keep going forward. Unfortunately, I think we'll get
another
more.
fight here. Hana charging in. Everfrost lands onto Mission once more, and they get 2 kills down. So Nesty out of nowhere, suddenly in the lead.
And this is kind of where we're a little bit more critical about CFO, right? Where even when they are winning, sometimes a lot of these mid games are just really confusing because they aren't looking to make plays on the map. And now DCG making a case that while it might not be the 6 to 8k gold lead that we would like to see at the 20-minute mark, they are starting to eke out an advantage, which, you know, is a positive momentum here. Is it will be a 3v3 in the replay, and it's just really nice lockdown coming in from Nesty on this Ahri pick. And this is kind of the utility style champion that really does fit Nesty.
I'll be honest, I have no idea why CFO would choose to engage right there. That just seems... That just seems like a terrible miscalculation on their part. They instantly regret it, get blown up by DCG. And even if they take the Drake, DCG might end up with the better trade right here. Straight Herald into the mid lane. CFO have to walk through this narrow choke to get to their own base. And DCG will make them pay for it. It's going to be another Herald charge down here. CFO gets baited out of their own base into losing 2 towers. Nesty goes in, doesn't land the Everfrost or the Charm. But we still could be seeing some engage here. Gemini needs to have a good insect for this to actually go off, and they do not have the angle for it.
Whew, okay. This mid game really starting to explode here for the side of DCG, and a bit more of an implosion coming in from CFO. They target, hey, we want to go and play around this dragon, but they didn't have that mid wave set up. So DCG, they're like, well, we have minions here. We can just throw down this Rift Herald. We already took the tier 1 tower, so it's not going to take a whole lot more effort to break the tier 2 and even that tier 3. So they just essentially go, well, we'll just go kind of a Nexus for a dragon sort of trade, and they, I gotta say, won out massively.
Yeah, that was such a weird trade, because the last thing you want to give DCG is immediate gold. Hana does spot this out with the Scryer, really nicely done here. Koala comes charging out of nowhere, but no one is surprised by his antics. They just all walk away. It's just, I'll be honest, I don't think that was the correct trade for CFO. They have the scaling on their side, so like Drake or not, I feel like the immediate gold is a lot more damaging to what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, anytime you offer DCG the opportunities to snowball with this composition, it makes a whole lot of sense for them to actually go and do that. And now, 3-man squad walking up to this tower. I mean, they could just try and go for a burst, another really quick burst engage here. Of course, with the Xin, Ahri, and the Rakan, the speed of engage is really, really fast. And now Victor starting to look a little bit of not too great of a pick, right? Because he is immobile and he has to really play things absolutely perfectly. Although that, you know, maybe not necessarily that big of a problem for a player like Mission, it is still a concern.
To be fair, I feel like Rest should still have a lot of side lane split pushing pressure. So, worst comes to worst, Mission, all he needs to do is just sit mid lane and press E a couple of times and he should be fine. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to hold on to their top lane towers whatsoever, but they could still wave clear and just hang around mid for sure. But the problem with this comp for me is I don't feel like Rest as a Gnar has that many opportunities in fact in team fights. Yeah, he'll win against the Renekton, but he needs to wait into Mega Gnar until he can join, and so far Leaky's still fine. Like, he's even up in CS, he's not even that far behind.
Yeah, and now the issue is, like, the Gnar almost feels like a dead pick as well, because if you look at his second item, it looks like he wants to build towards Randuin's, which is really weird because there's no crit 80 carry on the side of DCG, so you're not getting value out of the active here, and I would have much rather seen him go for a Hull Breaker, but we're going to get more fighting. Just kidding. It was just a bait.
It's always really hard to get fights between Lee Sin and Rakan, I guess, so...
Yeah, but the other thing is, like, with the Star pick, like, it's very hard to lock down multiple targets unless if you're punishing the front line, right? It's so hard to get onto that back line because it's A, a Xayah, and B, it's an Ahri with a lot of mobility, so...
Woody goes in for the charm, followed up by the Featherstorm. They get both summoners out. Overall, that's still a strong win for DCG, trading support sums for 80 sums.
Yeah, and I would also say the ult exchange coming in by losing Koala's ultimate, that's a lot of their pick potential gone to try and find a good pick here in mission. Fat fingered his ward there. I think he wanted to use his stopwatch.
Yeah, I think perhaps that was the correct answer. Definitely not getting any value out of that ward, for sure. And coming back into this game, even though DCG, they didn't really find the 6k lead, they do have the map control, they do have the side lanes pretty well set up. And for CFO, their only winning point on the map actually ends up being Shun, which is probably not what they were angling for coming into this draft.
Yeah, and you look at the next item coming in from Mission, it's Zanya, so very defensive approach here. So he is going to be relatively strong for this next fight because he is going to have that extra stasis, but for the most part, the initial positioning has been a little bit sus from him. So the stopwatch, while it could buy time for the rest of his team to collapse, a lot of the earlier times he's been picked off, even with the extra stasis, he probably would have been dead anyways afterwards. So that will be really imperative to watch for in this next team fight. But CFO, I mean DCG, they get themselves a second dragon. At least the Dragon Soul isn't going to be a big problem for CFO here. And
Nesty actually runs into the hook. Never mind, there is no follow-up. Waiting for a potential depth charge, but the rest of the members weren't close enough there. And we go back into a phase of DCG starting to control a lot of these side lanes. They've done a great job at just keeping Rest down and not letting him become a split push threat. It does seem like CFO are shifting gears here. We saw a very similar draft yesterday. It was a pure 4-1 comp, but with the Gnar going Randuin's, like you mentioned, it does seem like this is more of a just protect the Shin and we got late game boys. So, it's props to them that their composition does allow them to play with multiple outs. But it does seem like things are going off a little bit out of plan. In the meantime, Nesty will be going for that Horizon focus. A lot of damage if he can land those immobilizing effects. And now they're just going into the enemy jungle very confidently. This will be a straight up 4v4. And in this setup, CFO, they don't really have a tank.
Yeah, this was one of the issues, right? Rounding out that draft was, hey, they don't have a clear frontline champion. So they end up locking in the Nautilus for Koala, but at the same time, Koala hasn't necessarily looked that great when it comes to primary engaged supports. So when he's forced to be the clear initiator, he has looked a little bit all over the place. And Gemini, he could get picked off here. It will be junglers saying hello to each other. But now Hana, I mean, it was a 3-0 start for Gemini, but at this time, Hana has a 1-level lead.
Yeah, and his itemizations, I think, are a lot more useful in team fights as well. Going for the more standard stuff here. Well, on the other side, we do see some good poke in from Mission. At least he does hurt quite a bit. I'm not going to take that away from Victor. Still always a terrifying threat come late game. I always find like Victor to be kind of the death knell of assassins, because if he just props down Death Ray and Chaos Storm, a lot of times he can just burst 80 carries under to 0. Let's see if Woody gets caught out here. is able to simply walk away. Gemini not going to try and insect a Rakan, probably for the better. And we do just have Baron Vision going over to the side of DCG.
Could be caught in this choke point here. That could have been a little bit dicey, but now DCG are all funneled over to this top half, and in the meantime, like, Rest is still trying to split push, but I feel like his number is going to get called up soon, and the issue is his Mega Gnar is about to expire.
He is level 16 after this one, and we do have CFO using the Scryer to check this one out, so it does seem like CFO are just calling the bluff perfectly. The timing was definitely there, and DCG have to go back and defend their towers, but this time it is getting a little bit hard. We did see a bit of a speed up trying for a catch here onto the right side. Don't find it. And I think Rest will just continue to pressure here. Aliki took a lot of HP. He's definitely not winning this trade anymore. And Rest seems very happy at just funneling more gold into himself, being a nuisance here. I always like the fact that Rest likes to teleport mid-team fight onto an open lane and just split push it. I call it the Rest teleport. It's so effective. We see him do this all the time, and he just gets fed off of it.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still incredibly strong. Of course, the issue is doesn't quite have that third item. I would expect it to be the Death Dance, so okay, it's not the Death Dance. This is a very... Now I'm even more confused why he didn't go Hullbreaker.
Yeah, it's almost full team fight for him, it feels like. Trying to cut down
went
on
for the
healing.
Chem Punk, so like he's going for more damage here.
Oh, we do have Woody starting to engage. Hana does not get the knockback with the Crescent Guard. Might have put himself in a lot of danger. Nautilus gets caught out. Woody goes in, but Shun is able to dodge back.
Mega.
Great flash by Shun. He's getting excited. Double kill already. Going for the front line. Leaky has to go in. Doesn't find the kill. That's a triple. Shun dodges out on the charm. Can he find the Quadra? Nesty, you got nowhere to go. He pops into stasis, but Shun is waiting for him right there. 500 gold over to Shun. And this is why you run the rookie. Beautiful reaction, dodging out from Woody into the Quadra kill.
Oh my lord, Shun! Fresh kid on the block, upping his result over Cascada, which you would say would be the rookie of the split, but Shun, even though unfortunately he hasn't had as many games and probably won't qualify for rookie of the split, really showing him up in these fights as Shun. We'll get to see the replay on those fast fingers here. Hana, he goes in, and honestly it's not a bad engage. The issue is people just aren't there to follow up, and then we get to see the Mega Gnar timing come right here, and he gets a two-man pin, and that really just that just spelled the end for the side of DCG. It was already looking a little bit ugly at the start of that, but after that pin, it's firmly in CFO's control. Although
Rest does survive for quite a long time here. Can Hana find the kill? 700 shutdown does go down. Charm lands onto Gemini, but he's able to walk out. Ooh, Shin with the long-range snipe, getting across the wall. Gemini stays alive, and he's going for more. One last crit onto Woody. Goodbye, DCG. Welcome to Shin's age right here, the babyface killer. Just kind of wrecking through DCG, and this could just be the game. It's 28 seconds on the respawns. Cascada has to be super careful here. One hook, and that would be tiebreaker over to CFO. Cascada is keeping in a defensive formation. He's trying to wave clear, but Mission does find a death ray onto him. Leaky has to use the Dominus early just to stay alive, but Gemini, oh, he gets alive too. It's going to be a 4v2 defend for just a couple of seconds, but CFO, they're going to call it quits here. They've got what they came for. Another beautiful skirmish from the rookie.
They end up getting themselves that inhib in one Nexus tower, and honestly, it would have been really greedy of them to try and straight up end the game because Nesty was only 15 seconds away and Hana was already respawned at that point. So certainly a tough prospect to just end the game there, but they pretty much got most of the job done, right? Because we'll see the replay here. Teleport coming in from Rest. This is the Rest teleport you were talking about. He hops in, immediately gets charmed, and just gets collapsed upon. And he throws down the Randuin's, which doesn't do anything. It only applies a slow and reduces crit damage, but no one crits. And then, we get to see another fight.
Fight with Koala stuck in no man's land. He's just gonna go down here.
Yeah.
CFO not in position to respond. Not really sure what happened right there. None of the key ultimates even up, and Koala was just okay. It just caught out there. So interesting. No quickness, no Spirit Rush, but you know, still caught out. I think there was a Spirit Rush. Probably just Nesty rushing in with the Everfrost. And DCG might be going for another fight. They do have a 5v4 here. But not going to find the engage. Rest is the next target. He gets charmed up. Everyone flying towards Rest. And I think I've seen this a couple of times already. Ooh, Rest just manages to dodge out from the Wind Becomes Lightning. That was interesting. It definitely seemed like it landed there, but probably not enough to get the kill. As CFO, they gotta get bailed out. Very dangerous situation. They are able to wave clear, and right now neither objectives are really up. So this is what we call just a little fights and little scuffles. Nothing to come of it, but a little bit more of gold and summoners going to either side.
Yeah, and here like we're seeing DCG with a little bit of their speed of engage, being able to keep them in the game, being able to start things off very quickly with a quick dash, perhaps even a flash from Nesty into the Everfrost, into the Charm, a lot of pick power, and then the follow-up coming in from someone like Woody with that Recon ultimate makes things very, very hard to escape. So DCG with their playmaking have been able to keep things competitive, but unfortunately still yet to shut down Shun. So staying on 1,000 gold, if they are able to kill him, that would increase their chances greatly, but their composition again starting to tick down a little bit. The only person who really does scale is going to be the Ahri with the extra true damage scaling. That will be a factor, but at the same time, lethality is going to start slowing down here against some of these armored up targets like Mission and Gemini, who already have their armor items completed.
For sure, it's definitely a tough task. And Shun does have 4 completed items as a Jinx. He is an absolute terror right now. So if they do find a catch, they have to go onto the Jinx.
Hold the flank,
we have the flank teleport, trying to cut off the path of Shun, but CFO are still very much grouped up. Hana goes in for the knockback, doesn't find it on the target. Great kick onto Gemini, plus the depth charge slows the entire offense out, and Leaky is just caught in the middle of nowhere here. He goes down, we see Shun getting excited, Super Mega Death Rocket goes in, Rest finds a two-man stun in the front line, Nesty is also down. That's gonna be a full wipe here by CFO. They don't lose any members whatsoever. Great engage, great kiting. Hana, next one to fall. Woody, only one alive, and the base is wide open. CFO are going to march on. Woody, you're not fooling anyone. I'm sorry.
Rest gets revenge on his support, and that will be CFO closing down the Nexus and locking in that 3rd seed, dodging out on the PSG half of the bracket.
Do have the Rest Magi's coming out as well, and CFO, they are so damn happy. Everyone's happy outside of Shun. Shun's just like, another day at the office, you know. I'm an assassin. I feel absolutely no emotions here. Beautiful game from the rookie here. And honestly, this was a game that was a little bit dicey for CFO. We saw a strong early lane start into just multiple picks onto Mission and then onto the Nautilus. But throughout all of that, they didn't find Shun. Shun was the VIP there, and they didn't put him down.
Absolutely. Shun, I mean, he is most certainly the runaway MVP of this game here. And, man, I really wish we got to see Shun earlier, right? Of course, they didn't add him until in the middle of the split, so it was actually impossible for him to start earlier, but Man, this could have been the amount of growth we could have seen. I mean, we've already seen him really hit the ground running. Really, really impressive from this kid.
Yeah, I feel like he's a big part of why CFO was actually relevant in the second half of the season here. You have to remember, they were so strong in the early start, but then they couldn't even win against a playoff team for 4 or 5 games until they defeated PSG and found back their footing. So we are going to be taking a look at the last team fight right here. There's so many cool things to point out.
Yeah, honestly, really nice TP angle from Leaky, but they identify it and immediately Rest is zoning off Leaky this entire time. So by the time he gets in here, like, they've already lost a decent chunk of their health bars on the rest of the squad, and they're able to just 4-man collapse, 5-man collapse straight onto Leaky, instantly blast him. And remember, this is a Renekton, so this late in the game, he's really just a giant health pool, and unfortunately, the giant health pool doesn't actually offer a whole lot, and CFO, they immediately just blow them apart, and Rest, he knows Woody's antics.
Rest has tried that play before in Pro, so he definitely understands what you can do with the flashlight there. So many good engages there, but at the end, I feel like both of Hana's critical engages on the Zinzao did not work out. Like, he wanted the clean Audacious Charge knockback into the ramp, but Mission kind of sidestepped that, didn't go as planned, and then you get that beautiful Gemini kick into the, I think it was a 3-man knockup onto the ramp, which slowed everything, and Leaky was just like, well, help! Help! I'm getting surrounded! I wanted to do the surround, but I'm the one getting surrounded here, so...
Yeah, he was like, hey, guys, I finally got access into the backline. I'm hitting Shun.
He's like, I found
Where's
Shun,
the rest
I
of my
found
squad?
Shun! And Shun's like, I find you too. Okay, let's go. It just peppers him with rockets. So, what do you think about CFO and their draft strategy so far in the second half of the split? As we did see a very similar composition, but played at a completely different angle with this composition.
Yeah, like, I think the drafts are, it makes sense from the perspective of, hey, we just want maximum amount of comfort. It feels very similar to Beyond Gaming's compositions, where they really draft for the lane phase and kind of just say, hey, we'll naturally outscale them just being better players, and also with some of these champions. So, I mean, you pick scaling and you win the early game, it's really just overall win-win, right?
On the other end, DCG still continuing to struggle with their composition and their picks. The second half of the very last end of the split for DCG has been really rough, dropping games to Frank, dropping games all across the board, honestly. And where do you think DCG can improve, and what do you expect of them in the postseason? They do seem a little bit lost right now.
Yeah, I think the 1 week break between now and the playoff start will help them considerably, because it does seem like they are more of a preparation based squad, and hopefully they're able to cook up a couple more compositions, because when they've been forced to play standard, it does feel like they are struggling. And Gemini, surprisingly, is going to be the MVP. Of course, he did open with a 3-0 start, right? So a lot of the early game was controlled by him, and he had a couple of flashy plays. But I still would say Shun personally is my MVP.
I have to concur with that. Gemini had a great start, but he did have a couple of critical mistakes as well. While I feel like Shun actually played this game pretty flawlessly. We didn't see him getting caught out whatsoever. Played super safe when wave clearing mid. But yeah, so congratulations to Gemini for at least putting down the early game team so decisively, as we saw right here. Very successful ganks, good tracking here. And I want to ask you kind of an interesting question. Now that we have the split to a close, who has been your favorite rookie of the split?
Favorite rookie of the split?
You can throw Shun in there, yeah.
I mean, Shun has to be at least towards the top, right? Because while he hasn't had as many games, he's been very, very explosive and very dominant on picks like the Xayah. The last game we saw him on the Jinx. But Another name to toss in there, Leaky has been fantastic on a lot of these carry
Mm.
champions. This game, I feel like he wasn't given the opportunity to
Nope.
carry on the Renekton. A, it's Renekton, and B, they didn't play towards topside at all enough
Yeah.
to get him snowballed. So, but when he's given something like a Gwen, which was also available in that past game, he's been super, super dominant in team fights.
All right, so that's our two potential rookies, but we are going to be taking a look at the bracket here. DCG will start off on March 31st. Mark that in your calendars. We're starting off on a Thursday instead of a weekend. DCG Beyond Gaming, the winner will go to play the BSG. And as with always, our bracket, when you do lose in the first top side of the bracket, you do get a second chance. You will start in the lower side against Frank or Impunity. So whoever gets knocked out by in M1 and M2 will drop down to the bottom side. And then we do have a potential matchup on the upper side of the bracket between PSG and J Team or some other teams. Definitely possible right there. And after the winter finals, there is still a main finals, which will decide who gets to go to MSI right here. We had a very compact split, a very fast split, but we will be ending the playoffs in an absolute marathon again, which is always something that I really like to see. Like our PCS format is so unique in the sense that playoff is such a massive part of the sport.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep note of is if you do lose in that first round, you will be playing pretty much immediately afterwards, later
True.
on during that weekend. So it's a very fast turnaround. So some of these teams, they might have to prep for 2 matchups at once, or I mean, perhaps these higher seeded teams aren't factoring that in, but if they do drop, then it'll be a very, very interesting just matchup because they might not be prepared.
That's always the problem here in the PCS playoff format. You play so many games that if you don't have 2 or 3 strategies prepared, I feel like you just run out of steam at the end of it. We've seen so many teams fall into that trap. And if you look at this stretch, it's a very condensed stretch. We have 12 best of 5s within an 18-day span, starting from March 31st all the way to 17th of April, where we finally decide on our winner right here. I think this is the big question, but just between you and me, Frank, who do you see as our representative at MSI?
PSG have to be a clear favorite at the moment, but if CFO can figure things out, they are an incredibly dangerous team that we've seen already taking down PSG. For JT, of course, their name is still in the hat, but I feel like for the most part, it's condensed to those 3 just because of DCG's recent form.
I thought you told me MFT was going to Worlds.
Frank, well, I mean, here's the thing. They can still go to Worlds.
True.
It's only MSI that's on the table.
True. Very good point right there. I love the suggestions right there. I have to concur. I feel like the big 3 everyone is still looking at will be CFO, J Team, and PSG in reverse order if you're talking about chances overall. So I believe that would be the same for Pyra and maybe even Hysterics, but those are kind of your big 3 hot names right off the bat here. Personally, my heart, I still have a soft spot for Beyond Gaming, but even I have to admit they do not look that strong overall this split. So we will get a shakeup. I don't think we'll have the same top 2 or 3 at all like we had in the previous split, where it was Boomy Sports and PSG and Beyond Gaming. I feel like we are going to have at least 2 different names this time around. That would be my guess. So very exciting to look forward to at the end of the race, and some good shakeups happening in 2022.
Yeah, a good healthy change coming in for PCS, and hopefully that sets things up for our next split as well. So hoping to see some growth. Of course, for the teams that are already out, their prep has already started to begin.
Yeah, definitely props to them, and hope they come back strong in summer. Again, remember, we are going to take an extended break. Playoffs are going to start on the 31st of March. See you back then. Please be excited to come back. And for all of you that tuned in through the regular split, I want to say Massive appreciation. Big thank you. Thanks for supporting our league and our casting. And we hope to see you all the way through the postseason. See you then.